Unlearned Unlimited. Unlearned Unlimited.
Board Member Roberto Alonso, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. You know, I'm here in the heart of my district that I represent in the great city of Hialeah that just celebrated its 100th year anniversary.
Wow, 100 years.
So welcome to Hialeah, man.
Listen,
we're happy to have you here.
Glad to be here. So you are the school board member in the Miami-Dade County Public Schools and also a trustee at the Miami-Dade College, right? So your breadth of knowledge ranges from K to 20, right? So we're super excited, you know, allowing us to come to the community. Also, we got to connect with Laz. Laz talked about some great stuff. We really highlighted. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some spaces that you sit in on how you help to create things around supporting folks like Laz in your community and those things. So I want to ask you a couple of questions from a school standpoint. So, you know, in our podcast, we talk about the clash between education and culture, right? And when we were talking before, we talked about these stories that you hear about folks who navigate through success when they got to fight all type of stuff to get there, right? I mean, even your experience was no different. So help us understand a little bit in terms of like how you have seen it in your journey and how you've engaged with folks in the community, trying to help them navigate, whether it's the school system, college, and those things that you help with in the community.
Absolutely. I mean, my story goes back to just remembering the struggles of my parents. You know, both my parents immigrated to this country as foster kids. They came here during the Pedro Pan flights that came from Cuba, fleeing communism and dictatorship, looking for an opportunity, looking for hope. And they found that here in the great, you know, state of Florida in the United States, and were given that opportunity, but they came here with nothing. And it's funny you say that because we just recently reopened the Freedom Tower, which is the location in which all these immigrants were being welcomed. When they would get here to the country, they would receive services. And there's a section there where there's suitcases, right? And I remember my dad sharing with me the story of when he left Cuba, the communist military opened up his suitcase and took his clothes out and sent them here with an empty suitcase because they told him that he couldn't take anything from their country. And when you really thought about it and I looked at it, it was like, wow, so my dad got here with nothing, with an empty suitcase, but he didn't. He got here with a full suitcase because that suitcase was full of dreams.
That's right. That's right.
Dreams that he was able to live here in this country, in the city. He was born, not born, he was raised here in Hialeah, went through the struggle with my grandparents, working 3-4 jobs, then having us as kids. And I remember even as we were growing up, the struggles, the days when I went with my parents to go pay the light bill because our light had been cut. The days of my parents celebrating their wedding anniversary at Burger King and they were splitting a Whopper.
Wow.
You know? And the sacrifices that they went through to be able to give me an opportunity is one that was so important, and one that sometimes we lack in our current society, right? We're living in a society sometimes where we think we deserve certain things, right? And that we don't have to go out and put the hustle in ourselves. And it's important that within our school systems, we teach those values. We teach the values of grit, the values of want, and the values of you can do anything you put your mind to, but nobody's going to give it to you.
So tell me a little bit. So Laz, we love Laz's story, right? I mean, it's the typical story of, you know, he comes here, family immigrant, make sure that they engage in it well, building a community. He's been, before I told Laz, you are super successful, brother, because there's some places we've been, we haven't seen people have half the success he has, right? Nationally, the data shows that every dollar invested in community schools can yield a $7 return or even up to $15 of a social and economic value, right? You sit on the school board and also as a board of trustee at Miami-Dade College. Tell us a little bit, how are you leveraging this incredible ROI stat to build wealth and create an engine here in Miami?
Well, look, to me, education is something that is the most important thing in anybody's life.
Yeah.
My two sisters are school teachers right here in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I'm a product of Miami-Dade College, graduating there.
Yeah.
And to me, growing up, that was one of my number one priorities because my parents instilled it in me. What my parents told me was a government, a society can take anything away from you, but the one thing they can't take away from you is your knowledge. And that's what we do in education. In education, we're putting everybody at the same level of playing field. We're giving everybody the opportunity to be able to read, to be able to count, to be able to know history, to be able to know facts, so that they can then be empowered to be whoever they want to be in life. So when you're looking at education, when you're looking at the story, that is our biggest investment that we can do in any society, in any community. And that's why whenever we talk about our public school systems, our charter school systems, our private, I'm a big proponent of choice. I think families should go wherever they feel more comfortable. But the most important thing is that they get that education. So no matter what, our state, our country, our society has to continue investing into education and making sure that we have the best and highest quality teachers, as well as the tools that they need. Sometimes we forget about the tools, the innovation, the technology that goes around it. And those are some of my big passions, in making sure that we don't just have good teachers and good buildings, but that we also have good tools in there to make sure that the teachers can be successful in what they're doing.
So in 2030, Florida is pushing to be the #1 workforce development state in the country, right? As you already know. This relies a lot on work-based learning opportunities, right? So what specific hands-on paid experiences would you say that are being pushed from your perspective in the K-12 space to help kids get to that goal? And I bring that up because one of the questions we asked Laz was like, Laz, you made all these choices. That Laz, I hate to say it, I was going to use it. Laz, to me, like, figured it out, right? He figured out how to get a mentor, you know, did what we call the Hialeah hustle, right? To push to get where he got to, right? But like, what are the things that you're sitting in a space where you can help influence those designs? So what are the things you're thinking about as you're trying to push for that in the Miami-Dade schools?
Absolutely. I mean, both in K-12 and higher ed, we're always trying to make sure that any coursework that we're providing to our students has a pathway to a career for them. And that not just a pathway to a career, but a pathway in which we can make a connection between that student graduating from high school or graduating from college and going directly into the workforce and a job. So a lot of times, new, innovative pathways come around, right? And my first question always to anybody who's pushing a new program at me is, where are the jobs that are going to support that? Because we've seen over the last 10, 15 years where a lot of students are going through these, 4-year degrees, building up all this debt, and then no job because they studied something that had no pathway into a true career. So it's important both in our high schools and even going into middle school that we start to build upon those pillars of where those students can end up working, as well as in college. So one of the biggest things that we do is certificate programs. Okay. Both at the high school as well as at the college level, where you're earning college credits that are building up that portfolio view of being a college graduate, but they're also giving you work-based certificates that get you in there.
And that's happening early in middle school, they start there, or is it in high school?
It's mostly in high schools, but what we're doing is in middle schools, we're already building up those pathways because Miami-Dade County Public Schools is your largest choice district in the country. We are the leaders in choice. And what choice does is provide students an opportunity to go to a school that's not just their typical neighborhood school. When we were growing up, we had neighborhood schools. It was, hey, this is your high school. It is what it is. That's right. Kids nowadays can pick a school that is based on a career pathway that they want, whether it's aerospace, whether it's auto mechanics, whether it's barbershop, whether it's arts and design, studio, dancing, music we talk about. You have all those options here in Miami-Dade County. So we want to already start kind of planting those seeds while they're in middle school so that those kids know where to go and they don't waste any time in doing that. When they go to the college, we want to do that as well. You mentioned something though on those kids that can't afford to go out there, right? So one of the big things that we've done at both institutions is also build apprenticeship programs, whether it's teachers, where now a teacher what's going in for their internship is getting paid to do their internship. Or somebody who's going into the automotive industry is being paid to be a mechanic. Or somebody who's going into the construction industry is being paid. While they're being trained, they're being paid. And that's through a lot of the partnerships that we've created here in our community, in that we get these organizations to invest through the companies and through our school system in these individuals to make sure that they have a pathway to success while still being able to put food on the table, which is important to all of them.
So I heard that, we do our homework on our folks, right? So, but I heard a lot about you were very involved in this whole, they call it space economy, where you're trying to prepare students for that. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so we had a school here in the Hialeah, Miami-Dade area that was one of the first schools in our state to have a planetarium. And I remember when I was first elected into office, I took a tour through the school with the students, and they go to me, board member, we have a planetarium in this school, and it's abandoned, and we love to bring it back, as well as we love to have some courtrooms. Can you finally help us get investment into our school? And I said, I can help, but you first got to show me a pathway that planetarium and that courtroom is going to create a career pathway for you guys as students. So let's start working on where it's at. So together with our district, we had an amazing team and still have an amazing team at our district. Put a shout out for Tabitha out there. We really went to work and finding industry partners, and we discovered that Space Florida was making a huge investment into our state when it came to the aerospace industry. They wanted to make sure that Florida was back on the map when it came to aerospace. And you might think, well, aerospace, rocket scientists, top high-end engineers. No, aerospace starts all the way at the ground level, where we can get students with a certificate program making $25 an hour right out of high school inside of an airport, working on aerospace equipment within airplanes, and they can go all the way into being rocket scientists. We have a student who graduated from Miami-Dade College now. He was just recently recognized as one of our top stellar students that graduated. He's a rocket scientist over in Cape Canaveral now.
Oh, wow.
And he's a product of Miami-Dade County College, where he was able to get his degree there, move on to a university after, and now be an engineer who's developing and preparing these rockets that are going up into space. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we invested in a program that was there. So we've built these partnerships now. We now just finished up the renovations of the planetarium. We have a brand new state-of-the-art courtroom, and our goal is to prepare students for the future. In law, take them towards the pathway of aerospace law. In the planetarium, take them into the observation, the future, what does space really mean? And then in the workforce side is bringing in all those the tools from welding to microprocessors to semiconductors, all these different industries within the aerospace industry that can provide jobs from the entry level to the top engineers.
So people will look at Miami and say, well, yeah, it's Miami. They got all this economy, they're building, da da da. I tell folks, bigger does not mean easier. So it just means more people you got to shepherd in a particular direction, right? If you're talking to folks who are in your position in other communities across the country, and they're trying to navigate their communities to co-create some of these same models, what would be your advice to them?
So my advice to everybody in education right now is to be bold. We are sitting in the cuffs of truly being able to revolutionize education through the use of AI, through the use of technology, through the use of aerospace, and all these new technologies that are out there. We truly have an opportunity to take education to the next level. For far too long, education has been sitting back in the industrial ages, where our classrooms were still set up the same way they were 50, 60 years ago. We have an opportunity now to truly be bold in decisions we're making. And a lot of people think that because we're in Miami-Dade County public schools, we can do everything and anything that we want. And let me tell you something, it's a lot harder for us many of the times because we're such a large institution that in order to get things done, you have to move a lot of levers. Where in some smaller districts, you have the opportunity to move a little bit quicker. What we always say is sharing knowledge is your top priority. Work together with other school districts. We have several consortiums as well as associations in the state of Florida where Miami-Dade County Public Schools is one of 67 districts in the state. We go out to all these conferences to be able to mentor other board members, other districts, other CIOs, other chief academic officers on some of the best practices that we're seeing, but we're also learning from them. Because we learn a lot from those smaller districts that have been able to move things in a different direction because they were smaller, because they didn't have to do that level of investment. Because when you look at a district the size of ours, one of our biggest struggles always for us too is how do we provide access to everybody? When you have over 300 schools and you want to roll out a program, You now have to figure out how can you roll out that program to 300 schools? How do you train thousands and thousands of teachers in creating equal access to all students throughout our district? So it makes it very difficult for us when we want to be innovative because of some of those impediments that we have. And I don't see them as impediments, I see them as opportunities, but yet it makes it harder for us where those smaller districts can be far more versatile in being able to implement those things.
You're one of the most cutting edge folks in education in this city. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing. I know they say you're playing a lot of the role in the AI space with school districts, not in the state and even here in the city. Tell us a little bit about where do you see AI taking your community in the next 10, 15 years?
So look, as Laz was saying during his episode, I was one of those students, just like him, who struggled through school. And the reason I struggled through school was because education when I was there, and even today in many ways, is a one-size-fits-all. Every kid in a school was expected to sit down and read the same textbook, study the same material, and have the same focus level that the other student next to them was having as well. And we all know that we're all born with different unique abilities. We're all born with different aspirations, dreams, and superpowers. I have a superpower, and I tell people that I call it my superpower where other people call it a weakness. I suffer from ADHD. I have a problem in which it's very difficult for me to focus on one little thing. So if you expect me to sit down and read a chapter within a book or an entire book, I can never accomplish that. But now you give me 15 books and you tell me find where it is in those books that we can fix this camera, I will be able to find it throughout those 15 books and come back with the answer, because I feel more comfortable in a problem-solving world rather than an analytical world where I have to sit there and just do the same thing over and over and over. So when we talk about AI is finally going to give us the opportunity to allow our teachers, to the point that I said earlier, to have those tools to be able to truly be innovative in their classroom. And what I mean by innovative is finally getting to the point where we can personalize education for each individual student in that classroom. It's something that we could have never imagined in the past, because it was literally impossible for one human in a classroom to personalize education for 25 students. Let again a high school teacher who has anywhere from 6 to 8 periods a day with 25 to 30 different students to be able to understand where it is that that particular student is at that moment in their educational journey, and where he or she needs to adapt that education, that curriculum for that student, so that that student can achieve what it is that they want to achieve. AI can do that for us.
You're one of those rare leaders that have K-12 and university exposure, right? So you get to see the entire spectrum of what a development happens with kids all the way up to their adulthood, right? What are some programs you're thinking about in terms of implementation you think that would take things to the next level with what you guys have already accomplished now?
Well, look, one of the first things that we need to do is make sure that we don't suffer from the same mistakes that we've seen in the past. I'm a huge guy on innovation and tech, but we failed on a couple things. We failed our society with social media. We failed our society with the drive in which we can't live without our devices, our cell phones, right? Just last week, my cell phone broke on me. It dropped, cracked my screen.
World stopped.
My whole world stopped. I was in an all-out panic at AT&T trying to figure this out. And there was no way. I finally get my backup from my iCloud. You know, they said it was out there, right in the cloud. So I do the backup, I turn on my phone, and I think that's it. It's all here. And it's missing half of all the information that I needed. I didn't have contacts. I didn't have emails. And it was just an all-out panic. And we've created a society in which we are over-engaged with our devices. We live in a world where the latest Instagram post, the latest TikTok, that is what's driving it. And a lot of the times that's not even reality of life, right? It's this fake world that we're living in within social media. So when we look at AI, when we look at technology in our schools, we have to be very careful on how it is that we roll it out, because as a society we fail with social media, and we don't have the opportunity to fail again.
Yeah.
In my opinion. As an educator, that's one of the heaviest weights that I carry on a daily basis, because I want to be innovative, but I also want to be responsible and ethical in the way that we do this. So we have a large charge ahead of us that we're working on in making sure that we do it right.
Do you find in your engagement with the community, families, various different sectors, that the understanding of AI or how the tools should be used to help move things forward is different in their interpretation?
Absolutely. I serve a community that is very diverse in many ways. I go all the way from the projects in Hialeah to multi-million-dollar homes in the Miami Lakes area, to then serving Hialeah Gardens. I serve 4 different municipalities within the school district. Then when you look at the college, I serve an entire county that is larger than some states. Okay, so when you go out there and you start talking to individuals, whether it be students, their parents, their grandparents, everybody has a different notion for what AI is. You have the fear, but you also have the excitement, and then you have the lack of knowledge on what are your kids doing with this? What are they using it for? So our goal in the school system is not just to educate the students, but it's also to educate the teachers and the families. Through our parent academy that we have in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, we actually have created training videos that parents can go in to learn about it. Because to your point, there's a gap there missing in our society of individuals and parents who have no idea about what's going on in this world of AI, led against social media. So it's important that we talk to them and we educate them on the benefits as well as the big risks, so that we try to do our best to not fall into the same predicaments and the same failures that we've seen with social media.
Rapid fire question. You only get to answer this quickly, right? I won't limit you on the words. Sometimes I'll tell you limit your words, all right? But biggest failure that led you to your biggest growth?
Failing kindergarten.
I would tell you to say more, but we'll hold that. We'll hold that one. Who inspires you the most in education today?
My sisters.
Interesting. Sisters, and you're older or younger?
I have an older and a younger sister.
So you're the middle child.
I'm the middle child.
The negotiator.
And they're both teachers and mothers.
Okay. What's the one Cuban dish that perfectly sums up the Miami hustle?
Pan con bistec.
Say more?
Yeah. Pan con bistec, it's a quick sandwich that you can eat. You can never fail with it. They get a palomilla steak, it's very thin. They throw it onto a 2 piece of Cuban bread, put some onions on it with some little chips, potato chips, and you're good to go, man. That'll fuel you up and get you going.
Okay, we gotta try that. Your career has moved from ed tech entrepreneur to civic leader, right? If you could go back to your younger self, the one working full-time while going to MDC, what is the one sentence of truth you'd give yourself about unlearning limits that would blow your mind?
The hustle. Nobody's going to give you anything in life. You got to go out there and get it. And many people are going to tell you that you got lucky, and it's nothing about luck. It's about the hard work that you put in.
It's funny, we interview so many people, and the most successful folks have the same set of things, right? So last thing to ask you, if you've always been ahead of the curve in technology, what is the one major disruptive trend that you see in, whether it's in AI, vocational skills, community support, coming to the U.S. education system right now that no one is truly prepared for?
AI. We're still not prepared for it. And our Secretary of Commerce said it best in our state. AI is not going to take your job. It's people that know how to use AI that are going to take your job.
Well, we can do a whole segment with you, Roberto, but we appreciate you coming out. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right.
But all those Cubans in Little Havana came to Hialeah to work. They were working in the factories. They were sewing clothes. They were doing textiles. They were doing pots and pans. Unfortunately, a lot of those industries have left, because kind of, the world just goes evolving, and now what we're trying to do is see how we can bring them back. Bring back all these jobs, and how do we turn those warehouses that have now been shut down into aerospace warehouses where they're now building the microchips and the processors that are going on these spaceships. How do we start looking at technology? How do we look at bringing back textiles and all the different things? So Hialeah High, which I'm wearing today, is actually going through a full-out renovation. We're going to be spending over $180 million in building a brand new state-of-the-art high school for the city of Hialeah. Nice. Hialeah has not had a new high school or anything done to it in over 60 years. So our goal is to bring it back, bring life into it, and truly show the community that education is a big priority for everybody.
As they say, all roads lead to Hialeah. We appreciate Board Member Roberto Alonso and also Lazarito from Barbershop. If you like our content, please make sure you share, like, subscribe. Like we said, Unlearned Unlimited, where education and culture clash. You can see there's great things happening in Miami, also with great leaders, and also the product of what happens when great leaders do great work. Make sure you tune in. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We'll be sending you out this show, LinkedIn, everything you can think of, and keep following us. And we're excited about the great work that's happening in Miami-Dade. And we look forward to seeing you again. As we always say, drop the beat.
Unlimited, 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 unlimited.